Good morning, Coalesce London.
Morning.
We realize that we're the talk right before lunch, so we'll try to wrap up before our stomachs start doing the talking. In this session, we're going to be talking a little bit about how we use DBT at DBT Labs. In particular, we're going to talk through an example of what I believe constitutes great analytics, the process by which it was developed, how it gets used to run the business, and some of the technical choices that we made along the way in creating the supporting data product. So my name is Mark, and I'm a business systems architect at DBT Labs. And I'm joined on stage by my colleague, Mary, who's a senior director of revenue marketing. And you might be wondering, why are two business-facing people speaking at a conference for analytics engineers? Well, for starters, any data product is only as valuable as the insights it delivers and the actions it informs. So we hope that by hearing from people who represent the business, you can have a better understanding of what your business partners find valuable. Secondly, data has played a key role in both of our careers. And we are both very passionate about finding better synergies between data teams and business functions. So for me personally, I actually started my career as an analytics engineer at an online brokerage firm. In that role, I supported the marketing and finance teams and helped them create the analytics they needed to grow revenue and increase profits for the company. As a deeply quantitative person, I was really inspired by the work that they do, and as such, decided to go back and get my MBA. So for the last 15 years, I've actually worked as a finance and operations professional. However, in joining DBT Labs, it's actually allowed my career to come full circle. And I get to blend my analytics engineering background with my finance and operations experience. So now I actually spend most of my time helping the G&A teams, like finance, accounting, and HR, to automate their operational workflows with a particular emphasis on solutions that leverage the data warehouse and DBT. And now I'll let Mary give you a little bit of overview of her background.
Thanks, Mark. I, too, had a non-linear path to my role at DBT Labs as the leader of revenue marketing. My career was born in operations, with a few roles supporting marketing and sales teams at some high-growth tech companies. There, I did everything from implementing marketing automation platforms, CRMs, campaign operations, you name it, full funnel metrics and process. These roles included a whole lot of trying to stitch together data sources, as we still do today. But it was in a time when it was a little bit harder to do. In my next roles, though, I was hungry to own a number. I had supported these individuals for most of my career, and I sort of wanted to not be in sales, but also try to drive some business KPIs. So I jumped ship, and I went to the other side of the house. This was a natural move for me because I also, not only did I support these people and watch and be part of their strategy, I pinch-hitted a couple times when some people went out on leave or we needed an interim leader. So I got my feet wet. I really loved it. I was good at it, and I kept moving. Now I run global field marketing campaigns and some other marketing pieces that we're moving around right now. But I appreciate my roots in ops because it gives me this wide lens of what it looks like to be best in class, and it also made me really, really aware of how critical the data team plays a role in any healthy go-to-market organization.
Okay. Before we dive into an example of what I believe constitute great analytics, I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the current macroeconomic environment, just because I think there's really far-reaching implications for both business functions and data team members. So I know that not all of you are from the tech sector. I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been going on in tech capital markets because it's the space that I know the best. And I also think it's a really good microcosm for what's happening in the broader macroeconomic environment. So if you look at this chart here, starting in November of 2021, tech valuations actually started to fall relative to their revenue. Investors realized at that point in time that some headwinds that were coming in the macroeconomy, such as inflation and higher interest rates, were going to make revenue growth a lot harder. And so investors realized that knowledge by a reduction in the stock price for tech companies. So you can see that on the blue line here. The interesting thing is that tech companies didn't really start to adjust to that reality until about a year later. So what this red line represents here is actually the estimated revenue from software companies as companies predicted themselves. And you can see from the red line that their revenue expectations didn't actually start to drop until November of 2022. And I'm sure a lot of you are aware, because it's been pretty publicly in the news, tech companies have been doing layoffs and reducing their workforce and cutting back. And it's really those reduction in revenue that investors predicted almost 2 years ago that are starting to become realized today. But in the face of declining revenue, which we see across the board for all companies, we actually see that profit forecasts are starting to increase. So while quarter over quarter, next 12-month revenue growth is down 4%, companies are actually saying that their profit margins are going to increase by 2%. So in the face of slowing revenue, companies are figuring out how to be more profitable. And you can see that here, across an aggregate of all companies, a quarter ago, only 76% of companies were projected to be profitable for the year. And that has now changed to be 84%. So there's a lot of changes going on in terms of capital markets and the ways that companies are thinking about growing. So what is the impact of the macroeconomy on marketing teams? First of all, marketing teams are being asked to reduce their customer acquisition cost. That means that they need to be spending less money in order to make new and drive new sales. Well, the way that they can do that is either by focusing on marketing programs that have a higher probability of converting to sales, or they can spend money on channels that have lower cost of investment. Marketing teams are also being asked to bring in contracts with much higher quality. So they're looking to drive contracts that have higher deal sizes and to find customers who are less likely to churn or to find something else. And all the while, they're asked to do this while maintaining or cutting costs and being more efficient. So in other words, marketing teams are being asked to do more and spend less. Now, the underlying piece of being able to find high probability conversion marketing programs or to find the ideal customer base that will drive the highest average contract value is data. So marketing teams, in the face of these changing macroeconomic conditions, are more and more reliant on data. So what are the implications for data teams of the macroeconomy? Well, I think it's probably safe to say that many of you have experienced either tightening of the belts or something of the like within your companies. So for many data teams, they're being asked to either hold their budgets flat or in some cases cut cost. Now, the interesting thing about that and the paradox of these budget cuts is that data is now more important than ever within a company. So business leaders are reliant on data to be able to see into the future and to make the investments with the highest ROI. So data teams are having to, just like the marketing teams, do more and spend less money. So in these challenging macroeconomic times, how do we go from surviving to actually thriving? Well, in my opinion, this is where the relationship between data teams and the rest of the business becomes even more critical. Data teams and business leaders need to partner better together to identify the insights and analytics that will help to drive the business forward. This will require an investment from both parties to bridge their levels of understanding in the pursuit of creating higher ROI data products. Further, with the goal of scaling, self-service has become even more paramount in these uncertain times. Data team members need to be able to spend more time on developing new data products versus maintaining and supporting existing ones. And business leaders need more frequent and more timely access to information and data. Therefore, high-quality documentation and validated and certified data sets and metrics can really help unlock business value. Given this backdrop, I'll hand it over to Mary so she can walk through how she has partnered with the data teams and ops to help her run the business.
Thanks, Mark. All right, so revenue marketing. What are the data challenges in my role? Well, first, let's try to understand exactly what it is I do. My main job at DBT in this role is to set the strategy for all the campaigns that we put into market. The end goal is that I'm leading a team of demand marketers that deliver, hopefully, the right amount of demand for our sellers to hit their revenue targets. I do this with global teams here in EMEA, North America, APAC, and my KPIs in their most basic form are a lead goal, a pipeline goal, and a close one revenue target, and all the conversion rates that happen in between those things to measure the health of it. That you undoubtedly have someone like me in your org. They might not be called revenue marketing, but they're back there somewhere, and I encourage you to get close to them if you work on a part of the data that overlaps here. That's a super high level, but this role also includes a lot of detail that bring our campaigns to life. And all of that is data as well. So things like what messages we tell in the market, when and to who, how we plug in the ecosystem of partners and why we would do that. I need a view into our audience. I need to guide my team to make our programs better and better every time. Otherwise, they fall flat. Behavioral signals like what persona consumes what type of campaign. I also need to understand where my marketing dollar is going to go the farthest. How does that change by geolocation, by company size we're talking to, and on and on and on. As Mark mentioned, driving this type of efficiency and spend is what, in a down market, can help unlock some of this profit that everybody's looking for. So I need the insights, or our message falls flat. The answers to all these questions lie in our data. Sorry, I just redid the same slide. I got confused. Okay, so that's my role. Well, let's keep moving on to the places where this gets hard. No doubt, it's in the data. In my world, there's many dimensions of measurement here. I won't go into every single one, but you can imagine in our systems, lots of separate systems that are implemented differently. They have different nomenclature. A lot of times the person implementing Salesforce isn't implementing Outreach. They don't talk to each other well, and these are all separated. Channels that we use in marketing to engage with people are many, and those are also disconnected. Advertising platforms, event attendance, content creation, even our own product data. We want to stitch a story of a user together to learn what creates buying intent. And to add to that, we support a global audience, and so each of these markets that we all live in have different needs for being compliant around what data we use, show, collect, store, etc. So merging this information together in a comprehensive view is often really cumbersome and pretty difficult. It's worth noting there's a whole slew category of tech tools that claim to do this completely beautifully out of the box, plug and play, and I'm sure we've all taken a look at some of those tools before that claim to do that. In my experience, they all fall short of factoring in the nuance of the business, which is what we'll get into in a little bit here. Another challenge is the ad hoc requests. Like many companies, we have a centralized data team today. They're mostly based in North America, and they support the data requests of hundreds of campaigns across my team in a year. Over 2 years, I scaled the team from 1 marketer to 10, and so in that time, we didn't only scale up the amount of data requests we were having, but also added the challenge of supporting all these time zones. So we ended up with a Slack channel. It worked for a while, and we still use it for some things, but it's just like asking for ad hoc stuff. But it doesn't do much in the way of, teaching a man to fish. A few examples here on the slide of our table stakes pieces of data that a campaign manager should know. And the last one, this plagues almost every business stakeholder, is inconsistent metrics. With so many systems, people involved, we end up with multiple names to call different things. who's tracking ARR here, who's tracking it here. This information gets propagated incorrectly throughout the organization and creates a big mess. This is not new to any of you here. So where did we go with this? How did we get started to developing this great analytics that Mark was talking about? So you need to start by assembling a tiger team. The who is on this team will look different based on every single org. It depends where the skill set lives. But you need to bring someone like me who has business context of where the marketing plan is going and what both the IC level and the leadership team needs to know about those campaigns to make decisions. You need an operations person and hopefully a finance business partner that sits with them to bring all the context on the capabilities of those systems and where certain turning points live, where those pieces of data are, and countless other tools that we've talked about today. And then you need your analytics engineer who can do all the magical things that y'all know that they do. So in this case, my data team led the charge here. He hosted a series of workshops with me and my operations and finance folks. And they used this time to interview me and really, really learn my business. I use my analytics engineer as a partner. He totally understands what's important to my role and to my team, and so that makes us collaborate a lot better, and that's because of this session that we hosted. He learned that really at the end of the day, I'm a portfolio manager of sorts. I manage a portfolio of offers, programs, campaigns that all need constant measurement. You always got to be logging in and looking at what's going on. I need to be able to connect a DBT cloud trial, for example, to a webinar that drove it, or a form fill on our website to a case study landing page that got them there. We aligned in this day, and actually it was a few days, on what I do and why, and they became an active part of the demand gen process with awareness of what my business requirements actually mean, not just data requests. It's like actual knowledge on how these things need to go. Like I said, we mapped things out from start to finish, and in the end, we ended up with 2 critical documents that are the foundation for all of our reporting today. The first was a readout on what metrics everyone from an IC campaign manager all the way up to the leadership team we're going to need to make business decisions with our marketing data. That piece later became the dashboard that we're going to go through. And the second was super important. We all reference it almost every day, and that is a glossary of all the common terms. What is a campaign? What is this? What is that? Because, like I said, the nomenclature needs to be the same. Otherwise, you end up with a mess. So the Campaign 360 dashboard was born. This is a zoomed out view of it, and we're going to dive in now. I call this the dashboard of dashboards, at least in my world. You can filter it by the name of the campaign manager, the region, the quarter, tons of things. It displays every single metrics that's important to our business. From a dollar ROI to lead follow-up to the Campaign 360 has allowed us to fully transition out of worrying about accuracy of data and focusing on what are the insights that are actually going to drive the results. So you want to take a look? All right, so this I'm going to be like here because it gets kind of small and I want to be able to see. So we'll start kind of granular and zoom up from there. I'm going to put us in the shoes of Jackie, who is a manager on my team. She wants to know for last quarter, how many people did she engage in total in her campaigns, how many trials were generated after that, and how many turned into sales conversations. With just one click, she puts her name in there, and you start pulling out the data for that time period. You'll see that she drove almost 7,000 people to interact with her campaigns, over 500 DBT cloud trials, and just about 30 sales conversations from that. These are asks that used to take a long time to do, and now it's at the click of a button with this dashboard. Along the same vein, let's keep moving on. Often I'll want Jackie to get more specific on a metric. So for example, I might ask her for a monthly readout on which campaigns are most effective at driving pipeline versus awareness. Both things are super important, and we need to understand how to use our marketing dollars to drive both things. So before Campaign 360, this was an ask that took a few days, again, like the other one, but now we can adjust the dashboard ourselves to answer this question. You'll see here just a couple clicks of the filters. In this example, 0 to DBT, it might be a virtual event that you all have attended before. If not, I would definitely check it out. Zero to DBT is the one driving most opportunities with a total of 5. And this puts Jackie in the driver's seat to driving decisions based on data. This becomes her roadmap to figure out where to double down in the next quarter and where to maybe trim out some things that aren't really working. All right, let's look deeper into zero to DBT while we're here. So Jackie might want to know, where are these people registering from? How many accounts she sent over to sales afterwards, and are they being followed up with? She can get this information easily in this case. The bulk of conversions, if you take a look here, are coming from paid advertising on LinkedIn and an email that her team sent on HubSpot. But this gives her the insight to fine-tune promotion strategies before and maybe not spend time on things that aren't totally driving ROI for us. On top of that, she can see that we passed about 40 leads over to sales, and 88% of them have been followed up with after. This piece might sound really small, but so many marketing departments, at least definitely in my experience and of peers that I talk to, you might be amazing at running good campaigns, but being able to track back to how your sellers are responding to that and collaborate them on what the quality of that was is always really hard to get to and oftentimes left behind. So the fact that we have it right at our fingertips segues us into the next part of the conversation, is like, we collaborate with sales so much. This is one of my favorite parts of this dashboard. So which qualified contacts haven't been followed up with or have, and what happened with those, right? So if you look here, and we've blocked out obviously the contact data, but using this dashboard, we're able to see in the orange and green, have they been reached out or not? And if not, we can sit down with them and say, hey, what did you find out there? Is it not quality? Should we adjust our lead scoring? To tie that conversation back together is a much better conversation to be having than trying to track down one by one in Salesforce or Outreach, did these leads get followed up with? So aggregating this, having a cadence of meetings to go over this by region has been really helpful and transformational for our teams. All right, last one, how we roll this back up. So back to the Tiger team meeting with me, the data team, and my operations counterparts. Remember, I'm a portfolio manager, and I need a roll-up view of the health of my portfolio. How's my team performing over time? What's working and not? What is the ROI, et cetera? So this is, at the most basic form, that roll-up. You'll see here how many pipeline opportunities we're generating, how many of those were sourced by marketing. This data is showing 74% of pipeline coming in for this time period was influenced by marketing, representing about $10 million in ARR. Then you have by source, and then you can go down and drill down a little bit deeper and see what campaigns that's actually split out by. Truly, this is a level of detail that I have never had in my career, and just the ease of it is really the thing that makes it awesome. Like self-serve, not only I can get this, my boss can get it, the executive team can get it, the IC who's just running the campaigns. It's very open, and we're all starting from the same data set. All right, bringing it full circle before I hand this back over to Mark to bring us home. I have data team members who are all over the board with their career level and data acumen. Working with the data team has never been easier. This situation doesn't mean we never talk to them, but when we do, it's about, like Mark said, either creating net new data products or just getting to know their business more too. So, this dashboard makes everyone a better marketer, better DBT Labs employees, and most importantly, better advocates for the insights. The insights give us the data we need. The data gives us the insights we need to run the right campaign. So the customer is at the forefront of all of it in the end. Mark, a couple more slides here. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary, for that wonderful overview of the Campaign 360 dashboard. When I first joined DBT Labs, I was blown away by this thing. Just first of all, the number of different channels that the marketing team operates through, whether it's LinkedIn or other social media, paid media, HubSpot emails, events like today. To bring all of those different channels into one unified view that allows you to compare ROI across all those different channels It was just a great way to bring all of that data together. Secondly, just the depth of the level of activity that you could go through following a person's journey through all of the different events and the ways they engage with DBT Labs was really amazing. So thank you for taking the time to walk us through that. So we've talked a little bit about the dashboard. However, it wouldn't be an analytics engineering conference if we didn't talk a little bit about the technology and how we brought this thing together. So why don't we dive into the details of that? So I would say there was like 3 main principles that helped bring this together and help it to be most effective. Number 1 was creating a measurement framework. Number 2 was being able to leverage some native DBT functionality. And 3, making sure that it was designed for self-service. So we'll dive into each of these on the subsequent slides. So talking about creating a measurement framework. I think there's a number of different cliches that we all use for talking about how hard it is to manage data pipelines. I think one that's really popular is garbage in, garbage out. I think we're all familiar with that. My personal favorite to describe maintaining a data pipeline, my first boss as a data warehouse engineer said that the data warehouse was the kidney of the organization. So the kidney has to filter out waste and excess substances. It plays a vital role. Often the work it does is behind the scenes. And it's, most importantly, it's kind of at the mercy of what's put into the system. But what if we lived in a world where we didn't have to accept garbage in? Well, I think, and Mary highlighted this before, I think this was really one of the critical parts of how this dashboard came together, was the team came together to design an analytics ecosystem that included the upstream systems, where those upstream systems were designed with analytics and reporting in mind. So therefore, flexibility and quality was being addressed even before the data hit the data warehouse. So what's some of the ways in which that's done? So number 1 is the marketing team actually maintains a channel attribute mapping. So as they add a new marketing channel, they create all the different dimensions on how they want to report it. And this is maintained in a Notion database. And then that Notion database is ingested into the data warehouse. And the reporting can be updated on the fly for any new marketing channels that are being used, or if the marketing team wants to create a different cut of the information. So this was a way of empowering the marketing team to kind of have ownership over their data in a way that was controlled. Secondly, the team, when they were coming up with this ecosystem, as I defined it, came up with a campaign naming convention that also allowed them to determine the campaign period and the campaign goal from the campaign name itself. And you can see we leverage DBT macros here to parse these campaign names across all of the different models that we have that support the Campaign 360 dashboard. So all of this upfront work really helped enable the Campaign 360 dashboard and made the modeling and all the things within DBT much easier. Of course, however, when you kind of give this, when you have these sort of loosely defined, I'm going to use the word data contracts here. I think that might be expanding it a little too far. But when you have these constructs, those data contracts only work if the rules are adhered to. And I think it'd be really dangerous to just assume that the marketing team was always going to adhere to that. So we leverage DBT test behind the scenes pretty extensively to make sure that none of the rules are violated in either of those channel attribute mappings or the campaign naming conventions. Another one of my favorite cliches is good artists copy and great artists steal. And I'm not going to say that using DBT packages is stealing. I think that's an overstatement. But we were able to leverage packages in a big way in delivering these analytics in a timely fashion. So from the 5-tran packages, we're actually using the ad reporting, the HubSpot, and the social media reporting packages to get us 80% of the way there. And then a lot of the modeling work that we do for any customizations that we have is fairly minimal. The great part about leveraging these packages as well is that particularly in ad reporting, the upstream model seems to change pretty frequently. And by leveraging packages, we can leverage the community to help us maintain these things and adapt them for any changes that are made upstream. So it really helped facilitate us bringing this data product to market. Documentation is also a really important part of the Campaign 360 dashboard. I mentioned before that self-service was something that was targeted from the very beginning. So the models for DBT that support the Campaign 360 dashboard are documented better than anything I've ever seen. I usually probably not as diligent with my own documentation as I should be. But what you're looking at here is actually a screenshot from the DBT Explorer, which has just been launched recently. And you can see that it has a really nice view of the DAG. And then, most importantly, every single column that supports the Campaign 360 dashboard has been very heavily documented with kind of pseudocode or the business logic behind it. So that when Mary or Jackie or someone like that wants to come in and understand how can I create my own report using this data set, they have all the information that they need. We also leverage data freshness and data quality checks within our reporting so that everybody knows exactly what they're looking at and when the last time the data was refreshed, and if it contains the latest campaign information that has been populated. So in summary, this is how our Campaign 360 dashboard is used. And as you can see that 94% of the Campaign 360 usage comes from non-data team members. And we think that that's a pretty high success, pretty high metric for success as it relates to this dashboard. And I think the things that drove the success and made it so user-friendly and provide so much value to the business was extreme care and attention was taken to understand exactly what the business partners needed to get insights and to take actions to run the business. Secondly, it was a really collaborative effort between marketing, ops, and the data team to bring this thing to life. As Mary alluded to, they all sat together and designed the ecosystem that would support this and agreed on nomenclature and how the data would be maintained. And Salesforce was designed with this in mind. HubSpot was designed with this in mind. So it was really not just ingest the data in the warehouse and clean it up. It was kind of a ecosystem that was developed around it. We leverage key DBT functionality to generate accurate, comprehensive data products efficiently and effectively, like packages and the documentation. And finally, I think at the end of the day, it was just a really strong relationship between the marketing team and the data team and the exchange of information and understanding how the business was run to come to this result. So thank you all for your time today.
You can say lunch is upstairs.